Warden Park School, the one I truly love. And you'll recognize this person, I'm sure. Does something for us as humans. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Dorothy, for 25 years of a successful school. Okay, now I won't embarrass you anymore. Yes, Gordon Parks is in a great place. It's so exciting to be there, and I know a lot of you have been walking through the halls lately, and I just hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm really proud that St. Andrews helps fund both the project-based learning and the STEAM lab. These, along with the curriculums, adding a curriculum of reading, I'm sorry, let me go back. Adding a reading curriculum has truly helped the 2024 test scores. The scores were 74%. That is a 30% increase from 2023. In this picture is a kindergartner, and they took a field trip to Kansas City Community Gardens, and the reason why is because their class was on a was part of their project-based learning for that semester, for that quarter. Okay, so how did fate bring me to Gordon Park School, and how did the school help my faith journey? Well, in 1996, my husband Craig and I, along with our 1.5-year-old son, and soon-to-be daughter, moved from St. Louis to South Johnson County. And to be honest with you, unless I was going to the plaza, I rarely went past 435. When my kids were in elementary school, I had the life. I was the room mom. I went on field trips. I learned to play tennis. I started teaching School of Religion, and I was the coach of my daughter's basketball team. Yes, life was good. Well, let's be realistic. They're now in junior high, and I am not invited to walk the hallways of that of middle school. So I found myself playing more tennis, reading more books, working on my garden, and even looking through the pamphlet of Johnson County Community College for photography classes. One day, I had coffee with a friend who brought up this urban charter school in Kansas City, Missouri. She goes, Karen, I think you're really going to enjoy this. I'm like, yeah, okay, let me find out about it. And she said, well, next Wednesday will be a tour of the school. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll show up. And if you know me, that's what my usually answers are. Well, I forgot two pertinent questions. What is a charter school? And how urban is this urban core school? So by Tuesday night, my head was a ping pong ball. I went from how urban is this urban school? Is it safe? But I love working with children. To, are the classrooms like a young blackboard jungle? Do I really want to spend my time when I'm enjoying tennis? Well, God had a different plan for me, because I truly felt him nudging me to sign up or to go to the school. My tour of Gordon Parks was amazing. I walked into the hallways. Instead of hearing kids running around, they quietly walked the hallways. The little ones would be smiling and waving to you and giving a hug to a teacher. When you poked your head into a classroom, you see the older kids working hard. I instantly fell in love with the school, and I knew this is somewhere I want to spend my time. The first year, I worked in a fourth grade, all-girls fourth grade class, and I soon realized that these smiles the children had most of the time were just a facade. The first month of being at the school, I went into the classroom, and there was a girl with her head on her desk. I went up to her and asked her, what's wrong? Well, she had a headache. And so I took her to the office. The family advocate asked, when was the last time you ate? Well, it was yesterday at lunch. They gave her oatmeal, told her to lay down until she felt better. Later that day, I was lucky to have lunch with her and 3 of her friends. And I had the nerve to ask, when was the last time you ate lunch? Or one time, when was the last time you ate? Well, one girl was, I ate dinner and breakfast. One girl said, I ate dinner, I didn't have breakfast. And one girl said, I didn't have dinner, but I had a hard-boiled egg at Operation Breakthrough. Well, you can imagine how I felt. When you get to know the children better, they start sharing their lives with you. I soon heard stories of girls or boys living in shelters for a while. I heard stories where they had a backpack of clothes and some toiletries and couch surfed. Now, if you don't know what couch surf is, you go from one house to another after a couple of days because you don't have a home. Yes, these children were homeless. And I mean, and I keep on telling stories about these, but I really want to share, if I don't knock over Sarah's computer, about a project in 2009. And this was a 5th grade project where they wrote poems about their lives. There were some wonderful stories about having breakfast at Grandma's house on Saturday morning where she made pancakes. But then about their moms and their dads. But then there was also stories about gun violence. And after reading these, I realized it is the 12-year-old child that really is affected and which really is, I can't think of the word, but it's truly affected of this. I would love to read one of the poems. It's by Don. It's titled as Terrence. Took us to the Landing Mall to buy us clothes. Took us to the gas station to buy us Reese's and Nerds. Always helpful, giving, and caring. Riding in a car with his friends. Pulled over and started arguing with the car next to them. The car got shot up. Pow, pow, pow. Terrence was shot twice in the ribs. He shot back. Now he's locked up. I wish he never shot back or even had a gun. This is reality to too many of our children in the urban core setting. So gratefully, Gordon Parks finds ways to help them during tragic times. They now have a hot breakfast every day, and in the afternoon, there's healthy snacks, and there is no doubt that teachers put extra snacks in the backpacks, especially to those who would not have dinner that night. There's emergency funds where they pay for food, utility bills, rent, and if they are evicted, money toward hotel rooms until they find a safe place. They employ counselors, family advocates, and a behaviorist and his dog, Harvey. Now, Harvey's special because Harvey, when the kids walk into the school, he can smell or sniff if the child is having problems that day. He follows them to the classroom and sits next to them until they calm down and they're ready to work. During the day, if a child is having difficulty, he would go into the classroom and once again sit next to him until he is calmed down. What a better way than having a child going to the office or being in timeout. This has been very effective for the school and the students' learning. So the question is, no, there is no question. So what do I do? How can I help these children? Well, one of my jobs, I feel, is share these stories. Share it with the church, share it with my friends down south, share it to everybody I meet, because I think it is a story to be told. I find myself thinking and praying for the students throughout the day. When it's a cold night and I go into bed, I think of, my goodness, I hope somebody has shelter. When I'm about to say grace, I think of those who may not have dinner to eat. And I also, when I'm walking my dogs in my safe neighborhood, I think of the injustice that these children are not allowed to play outside. But mostly, I pray to God, because I know there's some direction I need to go to figure out how to help with these realities of our urban core students. And I know it's out there, and if you have an idea, please call me, because we all want to make a difference. After 15 years of volunteering, I realized that Gordon Parks is my gift from God. And I know that serving the children is my calling. I would like to end today. Oh, I gotta move it over one. I ask if you would say a prayer with me for the young people of Kansas or the world. God our Father, you see our children growing up in an unsteady and confusing world. Show them that your ways give them more than life, the ways of the world, and that following you is better than chasing selfish goals. Help them to take failure not as a measurement of their worth, but as a chance for the new start. Give them strength to hold their faith in you and keep them alive, their joy in your creation. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Gina Heise is another relatively new member of St. Andrews. She became involved in outreach almost immediately upon joining, volunteering at St. James Connecting Community, where her daughter Nora earned some service hours. She has served as chair of the Outreach Commission. She coordinates volunteers for St. Andrew's Coffee Tent at the Brookside Market. I'm personally very grateful to Gina for taking over management of our partnership with JVS, Jewish Vocational Service. Along with the Episcopal Migration Ministries, it's one of the 10 agencies in the country that have contracts with the government to resettle refugees. The only one in Kansas City devoted to that mission. There have been a lot of changes in refugee resettlement lately, and so we're going to be hearing from a few people from JVS about some of that. I'll let Gina take it from there.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And before I get started, I wanted to welcome our guests from JVS, Lauren, Sean, and Suleiman, and you'll be hearing from them in a little bit. I wanted to give a quick 1-minute overview of JVS for those of you who may not be familiar with them. And JVS, Jewish Vocational Service, started in 1949 to assist Holocaust survivors, refugees, and veterans who were returning after World War II to help them start new lives in the community. And as a U.S. government subcontractor for refugee services, they have welcomed people from all over the globe fleeing war and persecution in search of a better life. These refugees have been officially cleared and vetted by the U.S. government before coming to the U.S., and they have engaged, encouraged, and empowered refugees and immigrants through a variety of programming and services designed to move our newest neighbors from surviving to thriving. And whether it's through their focus on workforce development, community integration, or health and wellness, they have empowered all people to contribute to the community. And in August of 2024, they became our newest outreach partnership. And we are going to hear from them a little bit later about the very real challenges that JVS and our refugees are facing right now and what is at stake. So this Trailside series asks us to focus on going deeper, beyond the what we do for outreach, to focus on the why, the heart behind the service, and the personal journeys that may have brought us to these partnerships that we are serving. So to understand my personal why for JVS, it really requires a little understanding of my family upbringing, as well as the inspiration of a very special saint. There we go. Okay, so first, the family piece. So on the left are my parents, Nicholas and Mary Ellen. And on the right is a photo of my much younger self with my oldest sister, Deborah. So my sister Deb was born severely developmentally disabled. She was deaf and could not speak. And deaf was a special challenge in all the ordinary things that babies and children do, from eating to drinking to walking to sleeping. But because of Deb, my parents became very involved in improving the programs for the developmentally disabled and became a voice for her and other children and adults just like her who couldn't speak for themselves and their needs. She lived most of her life in Dixon, Illinois, first at the Dixon Developmental Center in a special program for the developmentally disabled, but for people with hearing impairments. In the early 1980s, the state of Illinois announced that it was going to close the facility, build a prison on its site, and then dump 800 individuals with various disabilities into community settings throughout the state. For those of you who may remember, this was a period of deinstitutionalization, and not all of it was in the best interests of individuals. So my parents and others filed a class action lawsuit against the state of Illinois, and my sister was one of the co-plaintiffs. The 2-year span of this lawsuit was during a very formative time in my life. I was 10 to 12 years old, seeing reporters come to our house. We had visits often from the public guardian of the state of Illinois. And there were monthly meetings of parents of disabled residents who came to my parents' house every month for 20 years. All her life, my sister exhorted the family to go forth to help those less fortunate and to serve in the community. So in case you want to know the end of the story, we did lose the lawsuit with the Illinois State Supreme Court. But it did result in the state completely changing its attitude toward the developmentally disabled. The state closed the facility and dispersed residents to other state facilities, except the sensory impaired, those who were deaf, blind, or deafblind. They built a new facility where my sister had lived. In 1986, my dad was appointed by then Governor Thompson to a task force to examine the future of mental health in Illinois, and in 1989 to a commission to examine the state's mental health code. And he was president of the Dixon Association of Developmentally Disabled Citizens for 20 years. I learned from my family that one person can make a difference. So how does this translate into my service with JVS for refugees? Trust me, we'll get there. So I created this word cloud the other day. While this is a story for another day, I ended my 29-year career as a federal employee last week, taking early retirement as dedicated and honorable and experienced federal employees were shown the door. As you might expect, I have used the F word a lot in the last few weeks. There is a lot of power in that word, but living in a state of constant word bubble profanity is not healthy in the long term for anyone. So I decided to center my thoughts on other F words that either give my life meaning, define my spirit, challenge me, or inspire me. And I suspect many of these words resonate with you as well. But there's one word in this cloud that might puzzle you. It's the name Francis. So St. Francis Xavier Cabrini is my devotional saint. As a young girl, she was enthralled by stories of missionaries, and she knew she was called to be a religious. At the age of 30, she set out to create the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And in the early years, they worked in northern Italy. But she was eager to spread the love of Jesus around the world. In 1887, she was approached by Bishop Giovanni Scalabrini, who was deeply concerned about Italians who had immigrated to the Americas. In a single decade, nearly 1 million had fled. Few had much education, and few possessed skills that allowed them to get good jobs. And instead of finding the better life they envisioned here in America, they faced deep prejudice, poor wages, a patroni system of contract labor, and bad housing. In those days, the U.S. was actually considered mission territory, and there were few priests who actually spoke Italian here in the U.S. So Bishop Scalabrini asked Mother Cabrini to go to New York to help. She obtained an audience with Pope Leo XIII to seek his advice, and he told her not to the east, but to the west she needed to go, to tend to the immigrants in the U.S. So Mother Cabrini and 6 of her missionary sisters set off for New York City in 1889. And they found a mass of human misery, families crammed into foul tenements, parents working 12-hour days for meager wages, and children who lacked food, supervision, and basic schooling. So within days of her arrival, Mother Cabrini organized catechism classes, and the nuns went door to door through rough neighborhoods, facing humiliating insults, and in order to gather funds for the children. And their convent quickly became a haven for the children in the notorious Five Points neighborhood. An orphanage was established, followed by parochial schools and a hospital. Soon, requests for Mother Cabrini's help poured in from other cities in the U.S., as well as from Europe and Central and South America. Filled with a deep trust in God and endowed with a wonderful administrative ability, she founded within 35 years a total of 67 institutions, including orphanages, schools, and hospitals, dedicated to caring for the poor, uneducated, sick, abandoned, and especially for the Italian immigrants. Her institutions were spread out in places all over the U.S., including New York, Colorado, and Illinois. In 1909, she became a citizen in the United States. She died in Chicago in 1917 at the age of 67 and was canonized in 1946 by Pope Pius XII, becoming the first American citizen to be named a saint. Her life and work is very personal to me. My grandfather was an Italian immigrant to Chicago. I truly believe that the work that she left behind made my grandfather's journey and experience in a new country better than it would have been had it not been for her dedication and commitment to serve and to love. So my husband and I, along with our kids, have been pilgrims to the National Shrine of St. Francis Xavier Cabrini in Chicago, as well as the Mother Cabrini Shrine in Golden, Colorado. So my devotion to her stems from my family heritage of Italian immigrants and her story of service. And just like my parents, she served and spoke for those who couldn't speak for themselves, the most vulnerable among us. And if her story wasn't enough to draw me to her, her feast day of November 13th is also my father's birthday. So we are going to hear shortly again from our friends at JVS. But I did want to share that on January 21st, the Episcopal Church leaders issued a letter regarding the Trump administration's immigration executive orders. And I would like to read part of that letter. As Christians, our faith is shaped by the biblical story of people whom God led into... Oh, I lost my... Oh, there it is. Our faith is shaped by the biblical story of people whom God led into foreign countries to escape oppression. Exodus tells us the story of the ancient Israelites escaping slavery in the land of Egypt and wandering in the wilderness without a home. In Leviticus, God commands that we remember this sojourn as part of our own story of faith. When an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. Now, as Paul tells us in Ephesians 2:12-19, we are no longer aliens. Christ Jesus made us citizens with the saints and members of the household of God. As we read in 1 Peter, we have received God's mercy, and we must demonstrate this sacrificial love in our lives and deeds. Because our true citizenship is not here on earth, but in heaven, we are called to transcend this earthly distinctions made among us by the leaders of this world. We must proclaim that the kingdom of heaven is promised to the persecuted and answer Christ's call to welcome the stranger among us. This vision of God's kingdom, this new reality, is the one to which we Christians are pledged in our baptism above any political preference or policy, and to which our church must bear witness through word and deed. This sacred call shapes both our church-wide commitment to stand with migrants and the ministries of congregations across our church who serve vulnerable immigrants and refugees in their communities. Please welcome Lauren, Sean, and Suleiman from JVS.
Thank you, Gina. I don't know how to top that. So appreciative of several things. I want to say thank you for St. Andrew's commitment and partnership with JVS. It has been transformative. So thank you to those of you here this evening, and please extend our gratitude to those in your congregation who I know have donated coats and money and volunteered in our clothing closet. There are no small and insignificant acts. So thank you for that. Thank you for the invitation to be here this evening and to provide some updates. There's a lot happening in the news these days, and it's hard to keep up with it all. And so I want to give you a little background about JVS. I won't repeat any of the eloquent history that Gina shared, but want to kind of give you a snapshot of what our work has looked like, and then what it looks like today. As Gina mentioned, we've been around for now 76 years, and a significant portion of our work is devoted to refugee resettlement. We've been doing that work since 1949. But I would be remiss if I didn't also mention that we serve lots and lots and lots of folks who come to America in a variety of pathways. I like to say that if we think about immigration as a big umbrella, the spokes of that umbrella are made up by different classifications of individuals, refugees being one of those. Another might be asylee. Another might be visa holder. Another might be humanitarian parolee. Another might be migrant. And I like to say that we work with all the folks and all the spokes. And in fact, in 2024, our comprehensive array of services, from immigration legal services to health and wellness work, intensive case management, workforce development, touched and impacted the lives of 7,000 refugees and immigrants in Kansas City last year. So refugees are one of those spokes, and so we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that this evening. I want to leave plenty of time for you to hear from my colleague Suleiman, who has graciously offered to share his family's story of arriving in Kansas City and what their family is, how their family is thriving today. As Gina so eloquently mentioned, we are a federal subcontractor. So that means that we have received federal dollars to serve refugees. And last year, in fiscal year 2024, JVS welcomed 630 refugees, which is the highest number that JVS has resettled in our most memorable history. So in decades and decades and decades, that is the most. And in fact, in the first quarter of 2025, so October, November, and December, JVS resettled a record number during that quarter as well. If we drill down a little bit more, I can share with you that in the month of December, JVS welcomed 130 refugees, representing about 20 households, and that 130 is more than JVS resettled in the entire year of 2019. So to give you kind of a snapshot or a comparison of the volume of our work. And those increases in numbers were as a result of the now previous administration's desire to welcome as many refugees in their last year of that administration as possible. In fact, the administration welcomed 100,000 refugees last year. Fast forward to where we are today. We anticipated that refugee resettlement would be a priority for the new administration in terms of policy changes. And in fact, we had spent 9 months doing some scenario planning and trying to kind of figure out what we were going to do in a variety of situations. I can tell you that the changes that we have experienced in the last 6 weeks, we couldn't have possibly prepared for. We were prepared for refugee resettlement to be paused because it was in 2017. So we knew that. We knew that was coming, and we were preparing for that. What we didn't expect was the swiftness and the depth to which the policies have impacted our work. And so I'll kind of do a quick calendar, if you will, of the last 6 weeks. On January 20th, one of the first executive orders to come out immediately after the inauguration was a pause to refugee resettlement. Again, we suspected that was coming. That was not entirely a surprise. And the executive order stated that refugee resettlement would be paused for 90 days and then reevaluated every 90 days thereafter. Then, that was on a Monday, then on Friday evening at about 5:30 p.m., all refugee resettlement organizations in the country received a stop work order. We were essentially told to cease and desist serving our newest refugee clients. So individuals that had arrived within the previous 90 days, we were now told we were unable to serve. What that really meant is that we weren't able to use federal dollars designated for the reception and placement program. Because JVS is JVS, we did not stop work. We continued the work. We just got creative in how we paid for it. And so we shifted clients into different programs and reassigned some staff so that we could continue to serve our most vulnerable newest neighbors. And to give you a sense of what that service looks like in that first 90 days, when a refugee arrives in Kansas City, organizations like JVS find and fill a house for that family. We provide benefits enrollment, we provide school enrollment, we provide job readiness assistance, intensive case management, an array of health access services. And again, all of those are services that are designed to support that newly arrived family in their first 90 days because, why is it 90 days? Because the federal government mandates that a newly arrived refugee should be fully self-sufficient within 90 days. So know a language, be enrolled in school, have a job, your income outweighs your expenses, all of those things within 90 days. So that's the threshold there. We know that is oftentimes possible, but not always possible. And so we have other funding that allows us to support those same individuals for up to 8 months. We know also that even at 8 months, folks are still going to have needs and need access to services. So a lot of our services are available to families up to 5 years. But that initial 90 days is really critical. It's really critical. And so the last thing we were going to do on that Friday evening was leave our newest neighbors without the support that they were A, promised, and B, deserved. So we got to work moving clients around, moving staff around. And then on that following Monday, the 27th, you all probably saw in the news the OMB memo that came out that paused all federal grants. And that didn't just affect refugee resettlement, that affected everything. Any organization that was receiving a federal grant, those grants were paused. Fast forward a few weeks, the administration was taken to court for that. And a judge out of Seattle just a couple of weeks ago, a judge out of Seattle ruled that the administration did, in fact, need to make good on the payments that had been A, approved by Congress, and B, had been budgeted. So the Trump administration went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, you don't need to pay just yet. It's too soon. We don't know enough. There's still a lot of unknowns out there, so no, you don't need to make good on those grant payments. And then the administration did what we were not expecting. I think everything up to this point we were maybe preparing for. Within hours of the judge's ruling in Seattle and then the stay at the Supreme Court level, the administration decided to cancel all refugee resettlement contracts in the United States. So we went from paused to canceled. So currently, in the United States, there is no refugee resettlement program anymore. This has been not only devastating for our staff and our community, it has been utterly devastating for our clients, who again are left without a support network to be able to walk alongside them as they are trying to find jobs and trying to afford rent and trying to enroll kids in school. And so we remain committed to this work because not supporting refugees in our community, not supporting the most vulnerable among us is not an option. It's simply not an option. So we are undeterred, but I would be lying if I said that all of these administration policies have not severely impacted our work. We have had to make some incredibly difficult staffing reductions. We are constantly reevaluating our budgets. And I wish I could tell you today what the future of refugee resettlement at JVS looks like. What I can tell you is that we will continue to serve individuals who are our talented, resilient, determined, hopeful neighbors. You may have seen it on the local NBC station earlier this week. One of our clients who was resettled in 2023, Mr. Al Musa, he was interviewed to talk about his story, his refugee story. His family was from Syria, and in Syria, his wife was giving birth to their son during the war in 2016, 2017, during the war. As she was giving birth, the hospital was bombed. And their newborn son had a ceiling fall on him. And his brain was damaged as a result of that. And so Mr. Al Musa knew that they couldn't stay in Syria anymore. The family made it to Jordan, which, to hear him tell it, wasn't a whole heck of a lot better. But because of his son's medical condition, the family was actually kind of given priority to come to the United States, and so their wait as refugees was only 7 years, as opposed to the average of 17. And Mr. Al Musa and his wife are so in love with America and so appreciative of America. He showed me on his phone, he pulled out the Red Cross app. He's very proud of the number of units of blood that he and his wife donate every 3 months to repay America for the medical treatment that his son was afforded. He shared with me that his son, who arrived in a wheelchair and was unable to walk, now, as a result of several surgeries, is walking. So he and his wife donate blood. He volunteers with newer refugees to help them with job applications and to help them with benefit applications. And he told me, he said, last week, someone called me at 2 a.m. because their car broke down and they needed help. And so I got out of bed, I left my family, and I went and helped this person because it's the right thing to do. I will tell you another story. It was over Labor Day weekend. A gentleman showed up at JVS just as we were closing before the holiday, and he shared with our executive director and I that he and his family had just been resettled the day before from Afghanistan. And they were staying in a hotel off of the plaza because their home wasn't quite ready yet. He walked to JVS with his paperwork and he said, I need to go grocery shopping. I want to buy my family some groceries because I understand there's a holiday coming up here in America. And so I want to get some groceries before the weekend. Could you help me find a grocery store? And so we pulled out bus routes and we got the app out on his phone and we were trying to help him navigate how you get to Aldi. And in her infinite grace, our executive director said, you know what? Scrap that. I'm just going to take you to Aldi's. And so we loaded him up with some big shopping bags in her car, and they went to Aldi at 63rd and Troost. And they filled up her trunk with bags and bags of groceries. And he said to her, as they were about to get in the car, he said, this has been great. Where could I get a pack of cigarettes and a Snickers bar? And she said, I know just the spot. There's a gas station right next door. So she walked with him to the gas station. She let him go inside. The gas station attendant, also from Afghanistan, spoke his native language, and they were able to converse, and she tells the story that she could see them hugging inside the gas station. And he walked out beaming with a pack of cigarettes and a Snickers bar. And he said to her, and I need to say, he spoke excellent English, so there was no translator needed. He said to her, I haven't had one of these in 36 hours, and so thank you. I really needed this. And then he held up the Snickers bar, and he said, I've known my wife since she was a child, and the whole time I've known her, she has described her American dream as a Snickers bar. She's always wanted a Snickers bar, and I can't wait to take this home to her so that she can enjoy her American dream. I'll tell one last story, and then I'm going to turn it over to Suleiman. There was a family from Bhutan that arrived in Kansas City, I think in 2010, maybe. So they've been here a while. He was the leader of the resistance in Bhutan and had been jailed, and there were death threats against him. And so he and his family fled Bhutan. And they were resettled by JVS. And he tells the story that when they got off the plane, he couldn't believe that there were people with signs and balloons greeting his family when they got off the airplane. And it was the nicest person who welcomed them and took them to their new home, and he describes it as beautiful. But for one thing, there was a meal, a culturally appropriate meal that was supposed to be waiting for the family. Unfortunately, the gas stove wasn't working, and so there was no warm meal waiting for them. But the caseworker felt really bad about that. And so the next morning, she showed up with a bucket of KFC chicken. And Tinley tells the story. He said, we didn't know what it was, but it was delicious. And now, every year, on the anniversary of their arrival in Kansas City, the family gathers and they have KFC JVS Day. And so I share these stories with you to tell you that America is great because of these people, because of the individuals who are our newest neighbors. You and I are better. Our community is richer. It is more vibrant. It is kinder. It is more diverse. And so, if you are thinking, if you are nodding your head, I want to challenge you to do a couple of things. First, don't become despondent. Please remain hopeful. I hope to every day when I wake up have as much hope in my left pinky as our newest neighbors embody. So please remain hopeful and live out that hope by doing a couple of things. If you are not satisfied with anything that I have said tonight about the state of the world and JVS, I encourage you, call your legislators. Tell folks how you feel. I would challenge you to, if you heard something new tonight that you didn't know, tell a friend, tell a family member, because that's how we all improve our community. Is when we all know more. When we know better, we do better. So share something you've learned tonight. If you're looking for physical ways to get involved, Gina and Susan can tell you, coming to volunteer at JVS is a blast. You're about to hear from our new volunteer manager, Suleiman, who would love to work alongside you in our clothing closet, would love to, if you have a passion for youth mentoring, would love to connect you with our youth mentoring team. If you have career advice and you want to impart that on one of our newest neighbors, become a career mentor. So there are a myriad of volunteer opportunities. In fact, some of them are listed on the paper on your tables. I would encourage you, if you are shopping on Amazon or cleaning out your closets and you've got some clothing laying around, bring it to JVS. We have a clothing closet for our newest clients, and we're always in need of gently used clothing. The St. Andrews community this winter did an incredible coat donation drive for us. I think we collected in the community upwards of 1,000 coats this winter for our families, and I think there are 6 hanging up on the racks. So we are always in need of clothing donations. But if you're shopping on Amazon or you're at the grocery store and you're buying hygiene items, school supplies, household goods like toilet paper or paper towels, buy one for you, buy one for JVS, because our families desperately need even tangible goods as support. And then lastly, I will tell you, we are tomorrow, as a result of the administration policies that I just shared with you, we are launching a public fundraising campaign to support the over 100 families who would be eligible for and should be receiving rental and utility assistance and groceries. And so tomorrow we are launching a $500,000 fundraising campaign that will directly support the families we serve. So if you feel so inclined, we would love to be the recipient of your generosity in that way. We're going to put out, maybe on that counter over there, a mailing list sign up. If you want to continue to hear from us, if you want to get a monthly newsletter from us, if you want to hear about volunteer updates, I encourage you to give us your information. I know we've got many of you already on our mailing list, but if you're not on our mailing list and you'd like to be, we would love to include you in the JVS family. I'm sure that you have lots of questions, and certainly Sean and Suleiman and I will stick around after to answer them, but I would be remiss if I didn't turn the mic over to the real reason that I'm here tonight, and that is to hear from my esteemed colleague, Suleiman. Suleiman was missing his family breaking of the fast and prayer tonight as a part of Ramadan. So if you would join me, as Suleiman is coming up to grab the mic from me, if you would join me in wishing Suleiman a happy Ramadan by saying, Ramadan Mubarak. Ramadan Mubarak, Suleiman.
Thank you, Lauren. And also thank you, everyone. Everybody's smiling. Oh, my goodness. I love this. As I was sitting there, I was actually thinking where I was born, where I was raised, and what I've been through, and where am I right now. And it's, I guess it's God's plan, and this is real. My name is Suleiman. I am one of 11. I have 11 siblings. I'm the second oldest. And I know some of you ask, they have questions. How old is the youngest? The youngest is 5. Yes. My name is Suleiman. I am from Sudan. I was born in Darfur. Darfur, as many of you remember, the first 21st genocide happens in Darfur. And I am a survivor of that genocide. So this is back in 2003, 2002, 2003, when the war started. My family and I were in Darfur, in a small city, Niala. And even in Niala, we were in a village with our grandparents. So there was a militia called Janjaweed. You may hear about them on the news. They are still doing their dirty things in Sudan. It's still the killing and all that is still going on. So they were attacking every village on their way. Every village. And especially if you are a boy or a man, you deserve to die in their eyes. And for the girls and women, the rapes and all that. My family, they couldn't stay there. So my dad, my father, and my sisters, they decided to move out of Darfur. How? By walking. Yeah, it was a long walk. I didn't go with them, but they told me. I was left behind with my grandparents because if my whole family leaves, nobody there to take care of my grandparents. So they left me behind to take care of my grandparents. Guess how old I was? Very close. 5. Yep. I was 5, left behind to take care of my grandparents. By that time, life was not easy, so we have to. I think like something about us humans, we learn from the situation we are in, and we try to survive as much as we can, and that's exactly what I did. By the age of 6, I didn't. At that time, my family they left to Chad. There's no phones, no letters. I remember that time they used to write letters and they send it, and you hear back after 6 or 8 months. Even that, it's not going to work anymore because of the countries at war. So my family left, and I don't know if if they have made it safe. I don't know what happened to them, and there was no way for me to find out. There's no way for my grandparents to find out. And every time I remember, when I was young, because of the situation every situation was really, really difficult. I'm 29 years old right now. I remember things from when I was 4 years old. I remember everything with details as if it was today. And sometimes when I tell my mom tells me, "You are crazy. How do you remember that?" I'm like, "Yes, I remember." So my grandparents always tell me, "Oh yes, they have made it safe. They have made it safe," so that I don't worry all the time. But in reality, every night when I go to bed, my eyes will not stop tearing. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and my pillow is just like if you pour some water on it. Every night been like that for 5 years, 4 years and a half, almost 5 years. So during all this time, we were in a displacement camp, a small camp in Darfur. So in this camp, it's considered safer than the village. Yet it's still the Janjaweeds will come and kidnap women, kidnap men, kill them, And even the young boys, they kill them. If you ask why, they say if they grow up, they will join the rebels, and they will fight against us. That's the reason they kill boys and men. Well, so after a year, I was 6 years old, and now all the food that was saved by my grandparents are finished. The aid that we are getting is very, very little. The amount of aid that we are getting, you can eat it in one sitting and you finish it, and then after 2 hours you will be hungry again. But we get that for a month. It was not enough. As a 6 years old, I decided I'm not going to go to school anymore because we don't even have food to eat. If I go to school, I always feel very, very cold. I thought that was a situation for everybody in the class. But actually, when I get hungry, I feel cold. I knew that from very, very, very young age. I decided to borrow some money. I think it's equivalent to $3 or $4 from my grandfather, the only money that he had saved at that time, to go work with that money and make it more. And he didn't believe me. And he said, nope, this is the only money I have my entire life. I'm not going to give it to you. I keep begging him. I keep asking in the morning, at night, in the evening, and he refused. So I had to go through my grandma. and that was the only option I left for me, and I knew it will work. If it didn't work, I was not gonna ask again because there's nobody else can convince him except my grandma. I went to my grandma, and I was very nice to her, and I was doing massage to her legs, and my grandma said, "Son, what do you need?" I said, "I need that $4 from my grandpa." And she went and she asked, and my grandfather just grabbed it and gave it to her, and she gave it to me. Like, that was very easy. With that $4, I went to the market. I bought napkins, and I start selling napkins because in Sudan the weather is very, very hot. I think it's usually in the summer is 110, 115. It sometimes goes to 119. It's very, very hot, very sweaty. And at that time, nobody sells napkin on the streets, at the market, in between the transportations. And the transportation, the buses, they don't have air conditions inside. So I feel like maybe if I buy some napkins and I go around, maybe people will buy it. And it worked. It worked. The first day, I sold 2 packs of napkins. Every time when I go buy, the money, the profit that I got, I save it at the shop that I buy the napkins from, because I was very young, very skinny, very little. People can easily take the money away from me. And that's exactly what happened on my 3rd pack. So I finished 12, and the 3rd time when I got back, I was attacked by young kids around my age. I was beaten so bad. They took away all my money, but still I have the other money saved. So I did that for a while, and I helped my grandfather and my grandma. I worked at the market for 3 years. At the 4th year, I decided that I want to go find out where my family is. I want to know if they are alive or dead. And I need answers. So about me, what my grandfather knew about me when I was young, if I said I was going to do something, I will find ways to do it. I will find a way to do it. So when I said that I'm going to find out where's my family, my grandfather knew that I would find a way to run away from him. And if I want to do that, there's no way to stop me, because our house is, our room that we sleep in is size of like these 2 tables combined together. How to get in? We have to crawl in like this. It's made out of some dead tree branches. Um, I think it's just to keep the animals away from the small food that we have, maybe, because the wind, the rain, everything just gets in. Well, my grandfather knew that since because I said that I was going to find out my family, I was going to find a way to run away and find where they are. So my grandfather found a family that also trying to escape Darfur and go to Chad. And my grandfather sent me with them. But how? Because at that time they kill boys and men. Well, my grandfather had an idea. He dressed me as a girl. He dressed me in a red dress, with I think it's a green scarf. I didn't have shoes that time. Then my grandfather told me, first, don't speak. Second, don't take out the scarf. And most importantly, don't remove your dress, because your life depends on this clothes. And I did exactly that. And when we were traveling, we got stopped so many places. They searched the entire car. Well, the bus driver, they don't kill him. He's a man, but they don't kill him. Why? Because if there's bus drivers, they bring more people. More people they bring, more money and more stuff that they will take it away from the innocent people. If they attack the drivers, then there's no more drivers who come that route. So that's why they only leave the drivers. They searched the entire car. They couldn't find any boy. And I was there just watching them. Like my grandfather's plan worked. After 5 days of me with that scarf and with that dress and not changing or anything because I don't have any spare dress, after 5 days on the road, we reached Chad. When we got to Chad, now how I'm going to find out my family? I don't know if they're alive or dead. But I was very lucky. Very, very, very lucky. Turned out my father was working at the bus stop that we stopped. Yes. And he didn't know his son, who left 4 years ago, was going to show up at that day. Yeah. So we reached to the bus stop, and the family that I went there with, they start asking around. My father's name is Mohammedan. Where's Mohammedan? Do you guys know Mohammedan? And they keep asking around, asking. They told that he left early. He went home early today, and we asked where is their house, and we got description of how is the house going to look like near the tree next to this and this and this. Went near the house, and we didn't find the house, but there was kids playing outside, and I recognized my older sister. Yes. I ran to her. She looked at me and she ran away. And yes. I was chasing her and she's running away. And I thought to stop. I'm like, wait, if she's running, maybe she's going to lead me home where I'm going to find the rest of my family. At that time, I knew she looked like my sister, and I felt like she's my sister, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, I was running and chasing her, and the family that I came with, they're running after us and chasing us. And the other kids start screaming, and the whole neighborhood's outside on the street. Yes, they're watching a small girl, a young girl running, and a boy running after. Another girl, because I was still with the dress, but at that time I didn't have the scarf with me. So that scared my sister, because if she looked at me from my head, I'm a boy, and with the dress, I look a girl. So she got really, really scared. Well, I got home, and it was really, really, really emotional to reunite with my family. So at that time they already registered with the UNHCR, and they there at the place they are, they receive aid. The hospital is free. It's all provided by the U.S. aid, and also their housing is way better. So I finally found my home, and my dad at that time when I arrived, he was not there, but he came at night, and when he came, he usually sometimes he works in different locations. Every time when he comes home, he goes and he kisses all the kids, then he goes to bed, and he came and he kissed, and he came. There's one more. He yelled. My mom's name is Zara. He said, Zara, Zara, and I wake up and I call my dad and I run and hug him. It was dark. We didn't have lights. There's no electricity. I scared him so bad. Yeah. So, well, this is the last part of chat. So I hug him and he got scared and so it was really funny and it's emotional at the same time. That's how I was able to reunite with my father. Well, during this whole journey, I had some sickness that we didn't find any opportunity to. My family didn't find any opportunity to look upon because of our financial situation, because of the war that's going on. It was really we're trying to survive. If you are sick, if you have some kind of disease, it's very hard to find any cure or find any hospital to go. Well, now we are in the refugee camp, so I decided to ask my family, can you guys take me to the hospital, because I have not been feeling well since you guys left. And we follow up with the hospitals, and we didn't find any cure. We didn't find any the right medications. So at the end, we got an opportunity to be resettled in the U.S. because I was sick. And talking about God's plan, from where I was to where am I. So this is how my family got the opportunity to come to U.S. Well, moving to U.S. was another adventure. It's long, but I'm not gonna go in details. The most important thing was for my family to move to the refugee camps to America was I can't tell what I was imagining America, because we didn't know. We are just moving to a new place, a new country. We're going to have a new community, new neighbors, yet we don't know anybody. And we don't know how it's going to look like. But you know what my mom said? Well, even if America is different from our home, at least we will be safe. At least nobody will come and kill us. Nobody will come and attack us. So where it's going to, whatever it's going to be, it's not going to be like home, because home become a place that not livable anymore. We arrived at Kansas City Airport at night, and a JVS staff, his name is Faisal, he was there waiting for us. And we went to the airport, and we were just looking around, the buildings, the lights, and the small cars that running around, and like, wow, this is looks like a big city by itself. Well, Faisal came, walked to us, and he spoke in Arabic, and wow, finally somebody speaks Arabic. That's after like 26 hours of flights. Then Faisal took us to our home, and at the door he handed the key to my mom. And the feeling, I wish my mom was here to explain, because that's the first ever house key my mom held it in her hand her entire life. And that's the only place that my mom ever she can call home, because even when we were in the village, the whole family was just staying in one big place, but we didn't have like a place that is your house. It's like you can decorate it however you want. You can, move the chair, you can move the, sofa, all that. So this is the only, she was able to do that here in America. When we moved here, and okay, now we found somebody who speaks Arabic at the airport. Now what? We went to our house, we opened the door inside, this closes. That's like we are, at that time, we are 9. There's closes for every family member. I don't know how they found out our sizes and genders, but there's clothes for my size, our youngest size, my father's size, and also talking about the warm meal. There was a warm Sudanese meal waiting for us on the table. And oh my goodness, I think everybody washed their hand, but I did not. I was very hungry. Well, so after that, I said, well, okay, now what? How are we going to start a new life here? We knew it's going to be challenging, but I think it's become much easier for us. Why? Because there's a volunteers, people like you. There's a JVS. There's JVS staff. They never let us feel alone, ever, since we moved here. We got enrolled in schools. There's my family's best friend. Her name is Teresa. She used to work at JVS, and I think it's been 10 years since they become friends. Until this day, every morning, Teresa says good morning to my mom, and my mom says good morning to her. Sometimes I feel like they're competing who will say good morning to one another first. Well, fast forward. My family today, we moved to Kansas City. We did not speak any English. We did not have any money. We had a small backpack. Inside is 2 pair of clothes that we got from the IOM, International Organization for Immigrants. That's only we had. I did not speak any English. My father, my mom, my sisters, nobody speaks any English. My parents never went to school. So it's been 10 years since we moved here in that situation. And today, we have 6 people graduated from universities in my household. My sister, who's older than me, the one I chased, she's a nurse. She's a nurse at Advent's Health in Overland Park. I work at JVS, trying to give back. I go to school at Rutgers University, studying peace and international studies, also nonprofit management. My brother, who's younger than me, he works at the pharmacy at Children's Mercy, also goes to UMKC. My sister is at the school also, UMKC. She's taking classes at UMKC and Rockhurst, but she want to become a surgeon. Younger than that, also trying to become. I think it's something about anesthesia. Anesthesia. Yes. Well, I think from my family, I'm the only one who is not in medical field right now. So, I think when I hear about American Dream, I think of my family and where we came from, what we've been through, and how we are right now. And I think none of this would have been possible if America didn't look like you all. Because when I walk here and when I see the smiles on every one of you, exactly when I think of America, I think of people like you. And thank you very much for being kind and for your generosity.
Wow. Thank you also for saving Regina's notes. Well, can you imagine a life changing that drastically? It's unbelievable. we're running very short on time, so I'm going to, rather than doing Compline as we have done sometimes in the past, I'm going to lead us in prayer for our outreach ministries to close out this entire series. I don't know who wrote this prayer, but it's great. You did? Yeah, I figure. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, we thank you for the individuals you have brought together on the Outreach Commission. We are grateful for the gifts, talents, and dedicated hearts and hands that are putting love in action.
Oh gosh, the other crier is going to finish it. Guide us to be good stewards of the resources we have been entrusted with. Inspire us to be the salt of God's kingdom to serve others, live life fully, and bring others to Christ. And support us as we grow in dedication to each other. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.